Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're taking our second look through my complete collection of vintage Hutchinson paperbacks. Now, on the whole, most of these needed a darn good clean, which is where we're right in the middle of at the moment. Once we've finished that, I'm going to give them all a really good brush off. Then we're going to sort them into series order. There's a few doubles to consider which ones are better than others, and then we'll put them finally into the collection. So that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so I've actually given it a break overnight and I've left everything out exactly as it was in the new studio here. So I'm literally just picking up the following morning where I left off. So starting with a nice crime one again. Number 13, Death by the Mistletoe. And I was doing a little bit of research online, and those John Long Foursquare thrillers, they are definitely an offshoot of Hutchinson. A case of them just, putting out countless series and just seeing what became successful, really. Nice to have a dust wrapper with that one. They did do one odd services edition in the crime series, which I don't believe I have. I do have at least one Hutchinson Services edition, but I don't know if it's in the ones that I've pulled out. It may be slightly separate in my main collection, but hopefully not, and hopefully we can have a look at that today, because I believe I brought all my Hutchinsons down to have a look at amongst all the other new stuff. Back to the normal pocket library now, number 43. Early morning, and that seems fairly straightforward. There's a little bit of wear down there, but I'm not gonna, shall I don't think it's really going to make any difference if I was to sort of put a bit of glue, extra glue in that one or not, to be honest. So I just slide that over there. Another guide, and it's a different one to what we've had so far. Hants, Isle of Wight, Wilts and Dorset. Oh, it's guide number 1 actually. That's got the dust wrapper flaps, so the remnants of a dust wrapper, and at least this one's actually got its map inside, so that's good, because one of those early ones didn't, did it? There we are. It's got a little 50p. That's okay. A very, very delicate dust wrapper. I mean, not a great deal I can do about this one, I'm afraid to say, but it's there all the same, and it may be a case, once again, of I might pop it in my bag of dust wrapper spares, just to make the book look a little bit better on the shelf, but I'm not overly worried by it. I don't tend to do that these days, but I certainly did in the past. I'd take the beaten up old dust wrappers off these books, but for the time being I'll keep everything as is together, just for the sake of sort of completeness for the time being. And I can hear rain tapping on the studio roof, and also I can hear like a wood pigeon or something like that out in the garden. So if you can hear it, it will be very interesting, because the software that I use when I edit these videos, it has a little function so you can sort of slightly drown out or cancel background noise. That's quite a nice copy of that once it's out of the wrapper. You can get rid of the sort of the background noise. So potentially it'll be interesting to see what actually ends up being heard on the video, beyond my voice, of course. So that we'll have to wait and see. Obviously this is during the day, so there's the odd car driving by and things like that. Right, now once again, look at this. I am seeing double. Sylvia Scarlett. Now, this one on the right here is actually in a wrapper, so we'll do that one first. But the wrapper, look at that, it was slightly stuck to the front jacket. And the back. Yeah, the tape. They've done some vintage tape repair, and over the years that bit of tape here has snuck out. It's actually ended up doing a little bit more harm than good, because it's left a little tape residue on the front and the back. Stamp in the back there. So we'll just see, and lots of sort of foxing there. So we'll see which one warrants having a dust wrapper, I guess. Apart from that, there's no marks on it. And then looking at the other one, number 22. First of all, we need to check it's the same printing, so it's not. So this later one with the dust wrapper had books up to number 58. This one here, number 22, it only shows books up to number 24. So almost certainly this was an earlier first printing. So this one, that dust wrapper that I've got there, wouldn't be the correct one for this one anyway. So even though that's in a wrapper, this earlier printing is the one I will end up keeping, because it's slightly better condition, and also it's the first, even though it's not a first with a dust wrapper. And someone else will have that, you know, when I put my spares up, someone will definitely have that other edition. Right, the last pile. Now this is another one I've had for quite a while. Part of my main vintage sort of paperback collection, until I sort of started to pick up these Hutchinsons. And look at this, it's the Secrets of Houdini. How cool is that? And you tend to forget, in the earlier part of the last century, Houdini was immensely popular. Even after he died, he still had this sort of mystique about him. And this is a really nice book to have on him. A really great condition underneath. Yeah, look at that, I just checked, and that little bit of spine there, like so many of these that we've seen, just gone in that tiny bit there. So nothing to really worry about. Just a tiny slither of glue. Just enough to slide that back in like that. There we are. And then I'll pop the dust wrapper back on. So, as I said, I'm not overly worried about having first editions of these, but the earlier the edition, the better, is sort of how I look at it. Sort of same with all my paperback publishers, really. I believe this is the one and only Western that I've got. This is the Wild West Pockets, the blocked trail. And all their Westerns are scarce. They are indeed. That's this, look at this. Spider Sport. Wherever that was, Contour. Oslo. It's a receipt from Oslo. What on earth is that? Well, as you know, with these insertions, which is what the vintage paperback collectors call stuff that you find inside books, insertions, I'm just going to keep that exactly as it is, and that actually seems a really nice condition. I haven't got a pile for Westerns, and I've only got the ones, so I shall just pop it sort of on its spine over there, in between the two John Long Foursquare thrillers. Oh, here's another one. This is another odd one. Leaders of Britain. Leaders of Britain in the War. Winston Churchill, Man of War. So this was yet another series that Hutchinson put out in their paperback lines, similar to the Penguin specials. There we are, Hutchinson and Co. So this is a separate series, the Leaders of Britain series. And I do collect Churchill as an author, so I've got a fair few books by him and a fair few books about him. So there we are, look, Leaders of the Royal Navy, the Air Force, the Army, and then Churchill got his own book, number 4. That's really nice, that, isn't it? Now this is a foreign one, look, price 12 annas. So maybe someone could tell me, back in the 1930s, 40s, which country used annas as their currency. I certainly don't know, but once again, that's a bit of an oddity, so I'll pop that next to the Western. Now we're back to another crime one. This is crime number 69, so quite a later one. Rum Alley. And this one's also in a dust wrapper, which is good, but I can feel instantly that this has got wet because it's got rippled. You see that along the bottom? It's sort of got rippling there. That's okay. Apart from that, it's actually quite a nice presentable copy. It's just at some point the bottom of it has got wet, but someone's rescued it, and they've not done a bad job keeping it in one piece, to be honest, particularly since it's got the wrapper with it as well, which isn't a bad wrapper either. So ultimately I've seen worse, but obviously water rippling is fatal with paper. And if that was a comic or something, you could perhaps get the comic pressed so it would take the water ripple out, but not really worth trying or even bothering with an old paperback. Not even something that's particularly rare, I wouldn't have thought. Now, this one's in a sorry old state on the face of it, number 12. Once again, it's the Crime Book Society, but it's in a bit of a tatty dust wrapper, so if we get rid of the wrapper, underneath, it's actually not bad. It's got a little bit of foxing, but generally speaking, that's not bad, that one. Toning inside. It's got something on the edge here, which is coming off with a few. Goes through the pages. So the dust wrapper, this somber grey, but it's an early one. It's all there. It's just sort of hanging on for dear life, like one of the victims in the book, probably. So we'll gently slip that back into its dust wrapper. A really, really dirty top that I'm hoping that when we get to the brushing stage in a minute, it's going to make quite a difference on some of these old paperbacks. So here's another one, another Crime Book Society, Soho Racket. Now this one's got severe spine roll. You can see it down there. So if it was a slightly more modern book, say from the 70s up, a technique that I have used now to some effect was to pop the book into the microwave so it softens the glue up. Then I'd straighten it up and put some clamps on it to keep it in place. Can't really do much about this 80-plus-year-old book now. That's sort of, it's about as good as it's going to get. If I had it in a bag, you could potentially bag it up so it would start over time to start bending back into the correct sort of shape, but it's going to be a long old job. But for the time being, I'm just going to leave that exactly as is. Okay, what's this one? This is, I thought for a minute this was one of the services editions, because the services editions on these look very similar, but it's not. I'm absolutely certain I've got one or two, but for some reason they're not down here now. So this is just in the normal main run of the Hutchinson books, I believe. Fortune's Fall. This is a bit of a curiosity because it doesn't appear to be part of the normal Hutchinson's Pocket Library. It's like Hutchinson's Universal Book Club. Slightly unusual, that one. The Reader's Library Publishing in association with Hutchinson & Co. I don't think that's part of the main series, and I have a funny feeling, even though it doesn't say it's a services edition, I think it is, It's really thin, it's the right period. 1 and 6, so the services were between 43 and 46 generally in the UK. I think that's a curiosity which I'm going to keep separate again as well. So here's another copy of Shape of Things to Come, Volume 2. I knew I'd already had at least one of these in my collection. And this was sort of Hutchinson's attempt to be a bit like Pelican books. And the Pelican series was launched but in a 2-volume edition. It was George Bernard Shaw's Intelligent Woman's Guide to Socialism, Capitalism, etc. And the Hutchinson non-fiction list was the same, published in 2 volumes. Back to another crime now. I'm glad we got these crimes. Now this one does need a bit of gluing up the top there instantly. Number 43. Oh, I spot a little 10p in the corner there as well, so we'll get that. Yeah, it's a little bit brittle, this one, as can be expected. But this is exactly how the majority of crime books tend to turn up when you're out and about. If you're looking in charity shops, or, well, to be honest, charity shops wouldn't even bother putting something like this on the shelf anymore, unfortunately. Those days are sadly gone. In most cases, they'll just go and this would have just ended up in the bin, unfortunately, which is a real shame. But some of the bigger charity shop chains in the UK, people like Oxfam, they have got like a central depot, and anything that comes in which is, you know, looks a bit juicy, possibly collectible, it just gets sent up to them for an expert to cast their eye over it. So at least rarities are getting saved. I know for a while Oxfam had a table at the Penguin Collectors Society meetup, and it was all sort of the rarer stroke older wartime penguins that have been donated all around the country were brought to the Penguin Collectors meeting. Amazing, eh? Right, another quite worn crime one here, number 42. But I said, with these crime ones, I'm not complaining, because I'm just glad I've got some, because they are collectible. I did have a quick look on eBay yesterday, and I'd seen there were a couple of really nice crime titles in wrappers, and when I say nice, I mean nice condition, much better than that, for about £30 each. When I collect completed auctions, I was surprised to see quite a few, well, I say quite a few, a handful of these between £5 and £10 sold online. So that gives you a rough idea of what these are going for. It may be particular authors might go for a bit more, and obviously if it was a final book that someone needed. But on the whole, if the books have been put up for auction, there was more than a few people bidding on it. Whereas if it was buy it now, you don't really know if someone put them up, didn't really know what they were worth, and someone got a bargain, you know? You just can't tell sometimes. Right, so this is actually a better than usual condition one for a crime one. Because the wrapper's been around it, it's kept it in very nice condition. Not a lot missing, and because it's got a low number of books on the back, my suspicion is this is also a first printing of this one. And that's sort of how you tell with the Collins books, you know, the Collins White Circle books. That's how you tell a first from a reprint. It's generally just by looking at how many books are listed in the back. And with really antiquarian, like hardbacks, that's a similar way that they do it. They see what books are advertised, and then it gives them an idea. So this is a greyer crime one again, The Man from Scotland Yard, number 14. Pretty robust copy of this one as well. Nice clear pages. So this one's been kept in a pretty nice environment compared to some of the other ones we've seen. Yeah, that's all right, that one. No wrapper, but still very nice. Another non-fiction now, The Underworld of India, number 16. So it's got a little bit of toning, as you can see on the edges there. Very, very dark top, so I'm not sure how, when we get to the brushing stage shortly, if something like that, just doing that little spot there, has it made much difference? Well, to the naked eye, not a lot, in actual fact, on that particular one. But I know on some of these, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So here's another yellow one, but it's not a Western, sadly. I've only got that one Western. Early Morning. And that, apart from a very, looks like someone's tried to rub that price out and made a bit of a hash of it. So I'm going very, very carefully here, just to see if I can get the last little vestiges out. Well, that's about as good as I can get. That's fine. Number 9, Pantomime. Now, we've seen this one before, haven't we? So this is going to be another one that's going to end up being a double. And what I might do is just put a little job lot up of Vintage Guild paperbacks in a little job lot onto eBay. And I'm sure someone will snap them up for their vintage paperback collection. Number 2 here, Cecil Roberts' Spears Against Us. So because this is number 2, we've seen other ones which have just listed the first like 8 or 12. So I have a suspicion that this is not a first edition. It's to be a reprint, but it's in beautiful condition. It's a pre-war one, you can tell because of the quality of the paper. So very nice indeed that, but I'll have to be quite careful about which one is which. Now what's this? The Brains Trust. This is also a Hutchinson. So their later ones, they started to incorporate picture covers, a bit like their American cousins. This is the Jolly novels. Pocket Special. I don't know what series this even comes under, you know. It's going to be, for me, that this is the Hutchinson Universal Book Club. I think for the time being, it's got a little 20p in there. These and some of these other ones, they're Hutchinsons, but because I just don't have enough of them, it's not obvious what series they've sort of come from. So they're just going to have to come under, oh dear, miscellaneous titles. Look at that, I made a hash of that one. Miscellaneous titles. And that cover was so fragile. Look at that, I took the top of it off. But that one, and that one, look, they've got a similar sort of spine. I need to be careful with that one going forward now, since I've just wrecked it. And there's another one, but the very next one's similar. It's got that similar spine. And this does say a Hutchinson Pocket Special. Spring Pie. So I don't think there's many of these. And I don't think they've been very well catalogued either. But this is quite an extravagant publication for them. I think it is just post-war, because it's 1 and 6. But it's a real oddity and extremely delicate. The Pie Pocket Special, published April 48. Yeah, very unusual. Okay. Clive of India. I don't think we've seen that one. Yeah, and another one in their non-fiction series. Did we see Clive of India earlier? I don't know, but pretty much that one's okay. Doesn't need any sort of gluing or anything. Now here's another one in that one, like the Pimpernel book. Look, and it says number 124. So, and this is in the Universal Book Club again. So it looks like these have all come, or they're all part of this. All of these are part of the sort of the Universal Book Club. So quite unusual, but that one's obviously separate, because that's a separate series, Leaders of Britain. But the rest of them are all part of the Universal Book Club. So at least I think we've sort of cracked that. One more non-fiction here, Isabel Clarke, Hayworth Parsonage. It's funny, not so many of these have needed actual gluing this time round, so that's good. Although that one does, it's just got the bottom of the spine again in that same old spot. Nice generous little wedge of glue just to slip that in there like so. There we are. There we are, just to pop that spine back in place and stop it getting any more damaged. tiny little bit is still sticking out, which is quite annoying. So let's just get another bit of glue just in there. Okay, and the last one, and it's another copy of number 1, Shape of Things to Come, Volume 1. It looks like it's a first, so I've definitely got a spare set of this particular H.G. Wells one. Oh, that's really top condition, and because there's only 8 on the back, almost certainly that's a first printing. Yes, it's got a faded spine, but I think that's actually a particularly nice copy of that. And I do like H.G. Wells, most of his stuff anyway, that I've read. Right, wowee, so there we are. So that's the whole lot cleaned, at least for now. So I think we'll pause there. I'm going to clean the decks, and then we're going to start giving these a good brush down and a sort out. Okay then, so I've cleared the decks. I've got them back into short little wedges like this, and I'm just going to go and make a start and give these a brush down. And then when we've done each when we've done each little series, I'll pop them into numerical order, and then the last step will be just sort of recording what I've got on the computer and swapping out my my better copies for the substandard ones, which I'll pop onto eBay. So we got numbers 1, 3, 5, and 7. Those are those guides. So that's those. They can go over there. Then we've got a few sort of miscellaneous ones here. Nothing too dramatic on these by the look of it. There's that Western, the John Long thrillers, and that odd one there, along with these other slight mysteries. Well, they're not mysteries really, they're just the later series, which seem much scarcer, but not ones that massively interest me. That's cool. So that's them. Then we've got the crime ones, so we'll pull them out sort of 4 books at a time. So some of these were a bit rough, weren't they? Now, I'm not going to file them away yet because I want to put them into order and then see if I have got any doubles, but I don't know if I will on the crime. I don't remember seeing any doubles, but I could be wrong. I'm surprised not more has come off that, to be honest. I'm just going to grab my toothbrush just to see if a more targeted approach might work. But generally speaking, when you're doing a few at a time, the shoe brush is the way to go. Yeah, it's just ingrained. I don't think there's anything I can do about it. They just are absolutely hammered. And, you know, when I come to the dusting stage, as I've discussed before in my videos, the reason that you get this dust is because they've been set on shelves for decades and decades. Sometimes they've been in a room which has had a soot fire, you know, fire which has produced an open coal fire. It's produced soot and also tobacco smoke. So those things over time are bound to affect the books. It is just as simple as that. And little particles in the air are going to rub off and land on the books. There we are. So that's all my crime ones. So let's have a look. We'll pop them into order. So I haven't got many, have I? But at least I've got a representation. So Gang Smasher was number 1. And then that's number 6, 9. There's number 3. Oh no, it's number 33. Oh, they're easily numbered on the front. That's the easier way to do it. There is number 3. 1, 2, 3, 9, 12, 69, 13, 14, 42, and 43. Yeah, so sadly I didn't have any spares in the crime, but there we are. So you do get to see that, I can't remember exactly what number, but from a certain point, whereas the early ones are all sort of different colours, from a certain point, a bit like Penguin, they gave themselves the green covers to denote crime titles, and that may have been a very conscious decision on Hutchinson's part. They probably thought, well, we want, say someone said, oh, pick me up a book, get me one of the green ones because they're crime. They consciously did that just in case people, maybe they just associated the colour green with like classic crime or crime books. That's probably why they did it. And it's interesting because other publishers did yellow for westerns, which is another sort of thing. So I think it wasn't just Hutchinson that got up to this. Obviously the Collins Crime Club were all green as well, so it was like green was the colour of crime for some unknown reason. And you have to think it's because that's the colour that Penguin settled on. With Albatross, which came out before Penguin, they chose the colour red for crime. So we'll do the next series, which is the non-fiction, and we've definitely got some doubles in here, haven't we? So I'll be able to pull some of them to one side and decide, once we've got them in order, which ones to keep. Quite a bit of dust coming off the tops of these, which is good. That's why we're doing it. Wow, absolutely loads came off there. Loads and loads. But that's fine. At least I know when it gets into my collection it's not going to be too bad. So my wife jokingly said to me, why don't you when you do this part of the process, I think you should be wearing a mask. Well, I don't think it's too bad, but when it's been a particularly bad lot, I have actually done them outside. So this is my first messy job in the new studio. But that's okay. These should be fairly easy to do because they've got very, very clear numbering on the spines. Whew. Lots of dust coming off that little lot. Here's the last one of these. Lovely. Get the debris out the way. Okay, right. So let's get these into numerical order and we can have a look and see what doubles we got. So there's a number 1, and we had, I believe we had, there's number 2, and there's another number 2, and there's the other number 1. So yeah, we've definitely got a spare set of that. So it's number 1 and number 2, number 3, 4, and there's another number 4, number 5, no number 6, but there's number 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 15, 16, 18, 22, 23. There we are. So they are all unique. And those ones over there I do have some doubles of. So if I look at number 1 first of all, which copy am I going to keep? So they both seem, yeah, they both have only got numbers up to number 8, which means they're both first printings. And we know when we looked at this one in the wrapper was beautiful underneath. So I'm going to keep that one. And that one over there is going to go into my swaps pile eventually. So I might as well keep the swaps out now so that they're separate. So that was that. Then number 2 was a double. Both have got up to number 8 on the back. So which is the better copy? That one's got a slightly redder spine. It's less faded. But this one is in a dust wrapper. But it's more, yeah, I think it has to be the copy in the dust wrapper, isn't it? That's the clear winner by a mile, actually. So we'll slip that one over there. And then the only other double I had was number 4 here. And this one, once again in the wrapper, both appear to be first print. Underneath it's going to be perfect. So I've got 3 spares in the non-fiction. 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 18, 22, 23. There we are. So I've sorted out my first few swaps, and we'll slip these onto that pile over there. Okay, so that's them. So in actual fact, that just now leaves the main series. So what I'll need to do is to just go through these in 4 at a time, and then I'll lay them all out, and we'll get them put into numerical order, and the odd doubles that I've got can be sorted. So that's going to take too long. So I'll just do 4 at a time. Some are going to be worse than others. Others not too bad at all, I don't think. I think the worst ones were the crime ones, which we have already done, but sometimes it's hard to tell, isn't it? But certainly not a publisher you see a lot these days, is it? And I do count myself lucky that I was able to get, a nice wedge of these without hardly any doubles at all, really, from what I already had in my collection. So I'm very pleased about that. But it sure was a mammoth run, wasn't it? But I hope it's given you a few tips. I hope it's been interesting looking through them as well. Certainly I do enjoy going through old paperbacks as you've probably seen on the channel. And it's very, very satisfying when you get these old ones as good as you can, you know. Lots of dust coming off those ones. The only sort of resource online that I've found for these is a website called Paperback Revolution, and the chap, he's called Alan. He's mainly interested in services editions, but his knowledge of these sort of pre-war paperbacks is fantastic. He's probably, you know, one of the most knowledgeable people out there, and he has written an awful lot of it up on his blog. So do check out Paperback Revolution, because there's a lot to see there. But yeah, his collection of services editions is absolutely fantastic. Gotta be, I would imagine, the best in the world, but I don't know for sure, but I would imagine it must be, because there's not that many people collecting them, I don't think, you know. It's such a obscure thing, and they just don't turn up like they used to, I think. So plumes of dust coming off some of these. It's quite overpowering almost. I'm doing them at arm's length. Then we'll get these numerically sorted. There we are. Right. Okay. So I don't know where to start. Let's just do them as we go along, shall we? I'll just slip them in. 15, 1, 2, 3. There's a double straight off the bat. So we get them numerically in order, and then we'll go through and compare the ones which are doubles. Okay, so we'll create a second row here. Thankfully the numbers are pretty easy to identify just on the by the spines here. And I've vaguely got it split to 50 and under over there, and the other ones after that over this side. That's interesting. So this one here, 73 on the spine. This one's also number 73. Oh no, 78. There we are. Misread it. There we are. 78. Aha! Thought they'd made a tactical error there. 54. 24. So in the days of when I was a bookseller, these sorts of things, when you were putting books into order like this, back in the day, you would do them by author. These were called shunting sessions. Shunting, that's because you're shunting all the books down and around here. Certainly see a few doubles, which is cool. Don't mind that, because someone will be able to have some enjoyment from them. Wow, I've got a triple. I've got 2 triples. Who'd have thought it? So I'm going to need to move some of these down here now. Like so. It's got 2 rows of them. There's number 1. Nice to fill in a number that I've not already got. 19. $39, we can get in there. 64. Last one. Number 10. Right. Okay. So they're all numerically ordered now. So it should be a fairly simple job of checking what's what. So I've only got single copies of some of these. So let's move them back. So number 1. Now I've got 2 copies of number 2. And one is in blue and one is in green. So what is going on there? So looking on the back, the one that's in blue has only got 12 titles listed, and the one that's in green has got 20. So the blue one is the earlier one, and that's the one I'll keep, and the green one can go over there. 1 copy of number 3, 6, 7. Now number 9 I've got 3 copies of. I'm seeing triple. So my guess is that this one here, with the 6pence on the front and the dust wrapper, is the earliest one because it's got 12 on the back. I think that's possibly the same printing, but it's in lower grade, and that's a lesser printing. So those are spares, and I'm going to keep the earliest printing, which is that one. There we are. Just got single copies of these. Now, number 20 I've got two copies of. That one says 76,000, that's 36. So this is the Yeah, and it's obvious. That one on the back there has got the much lower print run, or printing, and that's got the higher one. So, as I said, as a general rule, I'll always keep the earlier printing rather than the later one. So we've got 21, 22. Right, 22, I've got Sylvia Scarlett. Yes, I've got 2 copies of this one. But in actual fact, this is the earlier printing with number 24 on the back. That's the later one. Even though it's in a wrapper, I'm going to get rid of that one and keep the earlier printing, because that's generally what I go for. And we got 24, 26, 27 and 28, and they're all sort of single copies. So they are all as is. So I'm going to slide those, all unique issues, over there, and those will be the ones that I'm going to save. And I've got that little pile over there of doubles. Now we'll do the same exercise again with the next ones chronologically. So 39, 40, 41. Right, I've got 2 42s. Mrs. Harter. No obvious clues on this one, except this one's in a wrapper. It's got up to number 47. Oh, it's difficult to tell. But I believe, yeah, I believe this one here is the earlier one. So that one can go on the swaps pile. Right, number 43 is another one I'm seeing triple. Look at that. Ridiculous. No one needs 3 of a vintage paperback. So they all say 35,000. They all go up to number 47 on the back. So they're all the same edition, but by far this one here is the brightest. So that's the one I'm going to keep. So far so good. Only one of the Dennis Wheatley there, and of that one. Yeah, 53 and 54. Now 56 I have got 2 copies of. So which one is best of Compton Mackenzie's Rich Relatives? So they've both got the same back. I think that one's been read slightly less times and it's got a few dust wrapper remnants on, so that's the one I'll keep. Obviously only got the one Devil Rides Out. Let's see how we get on here. So 62, yep, just the one copy. 64, 65, yeah, these are all singles. 66 and 70. I think that will do for that pile there. Laxall. Then we got 73, 74, 75. That was 78, wasn't it? Right, I've got 2 79s, so one has got the 7 pence over sticker compared to what was underneath the 6pence, and the 6pence one would have been it may have been the same printing, and it's also in better condition, so I'm going to keep the original 6pence one. Then we got 84, yep, 93, 94, 96, and 123. So that was all my doubles. So I have a little pile of doubles, but not hundreds. There's about a dozen there, so that's not too bad, is it? So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this epic sorting out, cleaning, restoring and repairing these vintage Hutchinson paperbacks. Certainly been a lot of fun going through them, and I'm very, very pleased with what I've ended up with. If you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. Do please hit that subscribe button if you've not already for regular book cleaning videos, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.